Give a huge hand to Rasmus Astrup.
Thank you very much. It's a great honor to be here. Actually, I just changed some of my slides, so in the hope of aiming to reach your very high intellectual level and knowledge, I normally just show pictures when I do lectures. So I have like 200 slides with pictures, and then I talk about the stuff we do. But I just feel that being among you here, it's a great honor, and I will try to talk about the project on a meta plan, on a higher level, so it's related to society, and it is always related to society, people, economy, and so on when we do projects. But it always starts with nature, and this is a picture from our office. This is our collection of sand. We have been collecting sand and soil for more than 20 years. We also collect seahorses and mosses and bark and stones and all kind of things that we find inspiring. And we keep them in our office because then we can touch them and we can smell them and we can feel them and sense them. And this is a very core value in the way we work. It's our approach. We just to do a short introduction. It was founded more than 20 years ago by this guy. We are now 3 partners. It's D.L. Anderson, we are Mette and me, and then we are a bunch of other people from a high variety of backgrounds. And today there is a lot of talk about sustainability and how to adapt to the modern society and cities. We always say that it's not just something we say. If you know the Cradle to Cradle founders and a lot of other people, they actually say that sustainability is just the minimum. I mean, this is the most sustainable thing people say right now. So should we just cover the world with solar panels and windmills, and then everything is so super nice because it's sustainable? We don't think so. It doesn't look nice. Does it bring value to people? So what is sustainability? We still have a need of design to create meeting places between people. The most democratic place in the city, that's actually the urban space. That's where people, I noticed now that some of you were actually sitting on the floor out there, but normally that's not so normal. But if you go to a park, it's super okay to sit on a lawn. So we behave more informal. We look each other in the eyes. We talk more informal in the urban spaces. So what we do in our office is to bring urban spaces to cities, and all of them also have a very high level of green, of nature. And it's not new that nature has most of the answers we always are looking for. You can find tons of quotes about that. We do a lot of writing about it as well. So besides doing physical projects, this is obviously what people think about when the people that know our office. But we also do a lot of writings and thinking. It's especially Stig, our founding partner, does a lot of writing about aesthetic, about the language of aesthetics. This is my publication. It's called Why We Love Trees. It's a book about all the reasons to plant trees, and it's not about aesthetics. It's only the facts that it can actually reduce crime. It can solve a lot of sustainable issues. It can get increase the value of buildings and so on. So we do, besides actual build projects in cities, we do a lot of writing. We do a lot of publishing in the press. We take an effort to do that. We want to get. We think that we can only do the highest amount of influence by not just doing physical projects. We also need to discuss with other competences, other kinds of backgrounds, and do interviews in different kind of medias. We use a lot of time on that. And this is a project, this is a physical project we did, I will talk about, and I will actually speed up because I have so many slides. This is on Bornholm, an island in Denmark. You might know it. This is a project called Green Solution House that we did a couple of years ago. This is a slide, I can see it's really pixelated, but this is the percentage of people that has a job, basically. And this is Bornholm down here, compared to all the rest. So you can see this was the starting point. The island was really suffering, and this is the build project. We managed to make it happen. The basic idea of this came out with a very fantastic event. All the stakeholders, all the most important guys from the city, they went on a boat, and then they sailed around the island for 3 days. They were not allowed to get on land before they came up with the best ideas. One of them was this one. It was called the Green Solution House. Other things came out of it, but this was the most physical proof of that boat trip. It collects a lot of sustainable things on an extreme high level, but it also collects a lot of people, and it brings jobs to the island. That was kind of the you know, all of you probably more than I do, the triple bottom line about sustainability, economic and social value. We wanted to have all of that. So this is not just a wood deck. This is actually made the last company of 3 generations that actually Bornholm is covered in forest, most of it. So he is the only guy left, and he has this big saw his granddad was building, and we found him, and he delivered all the materials on the island. And that is one of the stories of this project, that before we could actually design it, we were spending 2 times 3 days just driving around the island, meeting people, finding out who's doing what, who's interested in what. So instead of us coming and designing, we design projects all over the world. We can just bring the same materials. We can just say, today I feel like concrete, pavement, granite, or whatever. We took a different approach. We didn't have any clue about what we wanted to design. We just had an idea about meeting people and then make the project out of the things that was actually physically present in the island. So he's one of the examples. So everything it's super high level of sustainability. You can see everything is a circuit. We recycle water, gray water. We recycle the leftovers of the food. We have pyrolysis facilities, so we can actually collect waste from all the restaurants in the island. So there's a lot of fantastic things. We have algae filters. We were picking up, collecting algae from a lake near this conference center, because algae really like the gray water. They eat it, and then they use you use nature to clean the water. And it's so simple. It's actually like the beautiful cherry trees you see there. Those flowers also have a purpose. They attract the insects and they fall down and turn into soil. So it's not so complicated to be sustainable. You just have to seek and look and learn and get inspired and respect nature. Another example is there's a lot of artists in this island. Some of them more successful than others, but they are there nevertheless, and it's pretty cool. They have this layer of creative people, and there's a lot of people working with glass, and that leaves a lot of waste material. Pernille Bülow here was one of them. So we found out, let's look at that. What happens to all that glass? What happens in general to all the waste and all the wine bottles and all those stuff that we consume every day and just throw out? So actually we got friends with the guy who's taking care of all the garbage and waste on the island, and found out that they actually just sail it away. And we thought, okay, they have to pay money. Why don't we try to come up with an idea so we can actually turn the waste into a value, creating jobs, a business case, social meeting, and so on. So we started to look into the circuit of glass. So it's not all projects it's where it's possible to do it, to look at this at the materials in this level, but here we did, and found out that we could actually open up old factories that wasn't there before, that was closed down. So we went to see the locals how to fabricate this material. We also took it back in the office and investigated it, and this is actually a path of this is gravel of glass. Here it's casted in walls, and that is the leftover glass from that woman you saw. So we took this glass and turned it around and said, let's keep it here. Let's make it a business case. We actually are for the first time ever, we also got the asphalt company. You know, asphalt consists of two words, as and fault. It's really, really pollutional. There's lots of stupid things in it. It's a very clever material in terms of economy, but it really pollutes the water that lands on it. So we wanted to have, it's the bitumen in the asphalt that is pollutioning. So we wanted to have a bitumen-free landscape. So we make a special kind of asphalt, and we added glass in the surface. So I mean, and you can see, okay, this is very sustainable. But another issue is that the first thing people do when they come to this, it is that they go to that path and they walk on it, they touch it, they feel it, they sense it. So it has an amenity value and a functional and sustainable value. And that is the way we should always solve things. It's not enough just being sustainable. Here you can see it. They also have a lot of quarries. So we took all the leftover materials they have a lot of granite, the bad quality, we broke it down, and then we actually just created a parking lot with no asphalt. This is just different fractions of stones, and we were like celebrating how clever we were. We had a new way of creating pavement, and then my old professor told me that was actually how they did back in the days. You know, sometimes you reinvent a lot of things when you have to do it cleverly, but nevertheless, it's made without any kind of polluted things. The concept is that it's made for disassembly. Also the wood, so everything can be teared apart again. So basically it was a big success, and I cannot show you all the levels, but I think the important lesson from this is that as architects, I mean, I find myself in these crazy situations often, that how can we contribute? We are just designers. I'm going directly after this lecture to Jordan, because we are working with the refugee camps in Jordan, and I don't know anything about all these issues and the political levels. But I know that I can bring people together, and my company and myself, we are good at taking values out of competences, put them together in a new way. And I think this is a good example of that. It's not necessarily our design, all of it. It started somewhere else. So it's about a respectful approach, collecting good and clever ideas from other competences and people and background. So this is how we do. We always start with the people. It's all about that. It's the people that has to be in our spaces. We obviously afterwards optimize according to sustainability, climate change, and all these things. And then we again optimize so it brings a special atmosphere. It has to be a very unique experience when you walk in the city, otherwise it's meaningless. This is a project in Copenhagen. It's called SEB Bank. We recycle the rainwater, and it brings a very unique character to the site. You can see it reflects light. So this is an example of doing something sustainable that also brings a value to the city. It's a very unique experience to walk there. It's important because it's in a very big traffic junction. So you need people to kind of forget the noise and all the sounds. It's actually a parking. There's parked cars underneath. It's inspired by a sand dune. And what I want to show with it is just another thing that happens in cities all over the world, that there are no more public places that are actually built by the municipality. The most powerful, beautiful public spaces you see in the cities nowadays, they are actually privately financed. So this is the area for the bank. This is not the municipality kind of owns the area. They are supposed to maintain it. They did some agreement, and in the end, it's SEB who takes care of everything. But it's actually a very popular place for skaters and other people. And that is one of the new things that happens in cities, that private companies actually develop the urban spaces, and don't be afraid of it, just adapt to it and make it a positive thing, because there is money for public spaces. I mean, this is a private bank. This is how we work as well. It's just something that you always have to remember. We do not do buildings, never. Buildings are you can say that there is the built environment, and then there is the grown environment. We work with the grown environment. Our projects continuously develop. They become bigger and greener and more lush. And this is just pictures from the site. It's very popular. If you have the time, you should go there. Many actually took ownership to it. For example, the Copenhagen Fashion Week. So it's pretty interesting that this is the people who it's actually for. This is the people who work in the bank. So it's a very interesting thing how the cities develop in these kind of urban spaces. So everything we do has this functional and aesthetic value. We work abroad. We also work in Dubai. In Dubai, they use so much water. Here back in Denmark, we always work with climate adaptation. It's stormwater management. In Dubai, it never rains. So suddenly you have to find out your own DNA in a complete different environment. They love date palms. So what we do when we go abroad in spaces like Dubai, we challenge them. We say, why do you do these Las Vegas landscapes? Because you're doing it on top of a desert. It's very not sustainable. It's the most stupid thing you can do. Seriously. And so we challenge them. It's very hard, but it's getting better. We challenge them about infrastructure, not drive by cars and so on, not do paved areas, because no urban spaces are possible to walk during when it's so hot. So why don't you create a more sustainable way of doing urban spaces? So that is the things we work with. And it's also the DNA in these cities. When you see all these generic cities, we're also working in Cairo and other places. You see they forget their own history. So what we are saying to them, why don't you just take part of your own history and use your local species, the desert farming and all these things that actually exist in your society, and bring them up, because that is your identity. You all know this story about the oasis, and after there's the captain, he jumps in the sand because there is no water. In reality, there is oasis in these kind of. This is called gaff. It's a gaff tree. It loves to be in the desert. So why don't you? So that is how we challenge them. We try to find interesting things, learnings from nature. And why do we plant these seeds? Because it doesn't need water. So that's really simple. That's the way you should approach. And then you put it on a higher level with cities. Cities cannot exist without nature. I mean, we were actually created in nature. Well, there's different opinions about that, but I believe personally that we were created in nature. We have a strong connection to it. We become more healthy. We need it to be present. So we also need cities. We can't live without them as well. So there's buildings. This is actually from Abu Dhabi. They have a lot of mangrove. And they have to understand that mangroves are nice to look at, but they are also extremely important ecosystem. So they have to find out how to adapt these two things. Use nature so it actually brings quality to these stupid buildings that cannot live without AC. So they have a synergy. So this is the things we work with. We try to optimize buildings, landscape, inside, outdoor. This is another example of the limits. It's limitless what you can do with nature. Here we had a very high polluted area because it was a factory that was making chemical issues. So they tore down the factory and then found out that they had just been polluting the area for like 50 years or something. Thank you for that. So this is what we were given. The task was to do a temporary park, saying to the people, getting them to understand, it used to be a factory, it used to be off, you couldn't enter. Now it's there is accessibility, and you can come here and you can actually do whatever you want. So this is the finished project. It's all done, and what we did was just we had no money, so we couldn't get rid of the polluted soil. So we added this net. That's a law. You have to say underneath here there's a very polluted soil, and then we just threw things on top of it, like really simple. We didn't design anything. We just had a pattern, a historical pattern of things that we found that was there, and then we just threw things out there. Like the construction guys were like really mad at us because they thought it was weird that everything has to look so temporary. But it's important because we wanted people to understand that it was temporary. So this is some of the pictures from the finished projects. And then there was actually the most polluted areas. We were allowed to try to clean it. You can actually clean pollution out of soil. It's called phytoremediation. It's because there is some mushrooms on the roots of the trees that actually likes to eat, for example, oil and stuff like that. Another thing was that some of the chemicals there were so polluted that that every time there was a flooding, the chemical left the site, and it was thrown out with the water. So by planting a lot of trees, they actually drink the water, and we could prohibit that it went out to the ocean. So there was different levels. So again, what is the most clever way to deal with this? That was, oh my God, I have to speed up. That is roots. That is nature. We tested it in a lab. We planted them in the deep. In the hotspots of pollution. Here you can see we are checking on the... So that was the idea. And then it was the idea that we can actually make a temporary nursery. So we planted it before the actual development. Today it's high-end, super luxury buildings. They are already built, starting the construction of those buildings at the site. But we did a park that could be there for 5 to 10 years. So they bought the plants and they replanted them. So all the trees were actually replanted in the new facility. So we thought, why don't you buy them now instead of waiting? It's the same amount of money, and then you can bring quality to the inhabitants of the city. So that was the concept. So it is this belief we have in sensing an atmosphere. You can see we solve very delicate issues, but we also bring a unique design. That's what we believe. And this is the way we work. We really like people to wonder. This is a little girl. This is our project in Frederiksberg. There's a speaker underneath the pavement with the sound of a frog. So every time she goes there with her mom, she can hear a frog, but she cannot understand where it is. And it's not because we want to confuse her. We just want her to have an experience and talk with her mom about frogs and nature and other things. So it brings a unique experience. And that is the way we believe everything should be done. We are in a system. We are not in a structure. Here you have the frog. It's right there. It's an old Chinese drawing, but the story is just like the cherry flower you saw. All the other things that everything depend on each other. That's how nature works. I mean, there has always been floodings, but then something else took over. So I mean, we just have to understand that everything relates to each other and everything have a meaning, both in terms of economical, social, and sustainable matters. And that's the way we try to solve our projects. It's also why, as I said, we are not just 3 partners. We are tons of different kind of backgrounds. We have artists, plant specialists, engineers, and other kinds of backgrounds that know so much that I have no clue about. So I asked them. So we have a kind of a lab atmosphere where we solve our projects. How much time do I have left? 8 minutes. Okay, I will just take you through this project. We recently won in Paris. It was a major competition in an international competition. This is our approach, and this is the site. This piece of air. was actually sold by the municipality to investors, and then you had to come up with an idea who can do the best project in this piece of air, who wants to buy it for the highest price. So we thought, okay, how can we solve this? It's in the it's called Le Périphérique. It's the ring road of Paris. Here you can see the site. It's very unique to have a site that is built on air on top of a road. It's very complicated. This is how it's going to look. This is the plan. This is the drawings. You can see the buildings would actually they will close the road. So what we do is we construct a deck, a concrete deck, and then we build on top of that. And why do we do that? Well, this is the history of Paris. You know, you have the river where some of the historical, really high-level buildings were attached to. Then they had this. It was actually also an old fortune, a protection area. And today it's also the thing where you see all the riots in the suburbs. So this is where you separate the city from the suburbs. This is where you are in the arrondissement. Here you are in the suburb. So we thought, let's turn it around. Let's bring this center to the core value of the city. This is actually an ecological habitat. This is an attraction to be next to it. That was kind of a challenging thing, but it was what we wanted, to eliminate the border between suburb and the inner city of Paris. And the task of the competition was also called Reinvent Paris, so it was kind of demanding. So we looked a lot about Paris, and it's not the first time they tried to reinvent themselves. I mean, they had all the giant boulevards, metros, sewers, and all those things. They've renewed all the buildings. So, I mean, there is a lot of historical power in that city. But they also lost some of the challenges. Especially our side is the most polluted, one of the most polluted areas in Paris. I don't know if you've been there recently, but if you go to Champs-Élysées, it's so noisy, it's so polluted. Paris is still one of my favorite cities, but they have challenges. So our approach was actually this: how can we reinvent, not Paris, but cities in general? We cannot, I mean, okay, we could just say no cars in Paris, problem solved. You can't do that. So you have to reinvent cities by saying, well, maybe people don't have to walk where the cars are constantly. Because you can see in New York, really, I mean, so many people living in such a small area, but everything has to happen in the ground floor. Now you can see a small piece of green balconies, but actually New York, they only develop the AC and the building area. Why don't they brought the urban spaces on a higher level? I mean, physically on a higher level. So we started thinking about this level city. How can you get away from the noise and the pollution? And then we thought, why don't we make our building a machine? This is our building. This is the ecosystem. This is the thing. It's not a machine. It's more like an ecosystem, actually. And this is the things we want to put into it. We discovered and investigated all the air pollution, the stormwater, the noise, and then we thought, how can we solve that with plants, with the feature remediation again, collect stormwater and so on, and it's the approach we had. And then there is the other most important thing, that all we did, this technical, very high, we also have mushrooms. Mushrooms really like to eat pollution. There is examples of that in China. So what we do is we have micro remediation in the underneath our development. So where the cars are, there's full of mushrooms, and then everything need to have a social value. That's again the double value. It's not enough just to do sustainable things. It doesn't matter. So we want it to be publicly open for everyone. Everybody has to access here. Everybody can meet. So you can see that it has an aesthetical value. It's very technical, everything, but it's also a design that brings people together. That was the approach for all we did, for the water circuit, for the green surroundings. And you can see that you can actually walk on top of the building as well. 2 minutes, oh my God. So everything is made out of getting people together. You need conversations. You can see now urban farming is really popping up. Everybody's talking about urban farming. And then there's the historical matters. If you go back and you can see urban farming was during Second World War in Germany. A lot of people grew their own vegetables. And what about today? I mean, we have tons of vegetables. So why do we grow vegetables? We are not in need. You can just go to the supermarket. So why do we do urban farming? Because it brings something else. It actually brings a value to people. It's a very socialized thing. If you go to see people that do urban farming, it's a very social place. It brings a personal value to you as a person. You get in touch with nature. So it's different things, but it's important for us as human beings. So that is why we said, of course, there's urban farming. I think I made it. And so up here we have urban farming. We have a facade that's actually cleaned the air. We have a tea plantation because tea is the only plant that doesn't intake all the heavy metals in the airborne pollution. So down here you can buy a cup of tea that is grown up here. And all these facilities are of course taken care of by local inhabitants, by schools, by with people with social trouble. So it's not just a high-end building, it's for the whole city of Paris. I think I will end with that.
Perfect. Give him a hand.